Hello, James. I wanted to acknowledge your frustrations. I read your attached letter to your week six submission, and and know that others, many others in this class, share your same concerns and frustrations. So I'm going to go through the last 2 weeks' assignments and hit mostly on week six, the milestone two. James, I may have remarked earlier on your ambitious and very thorough archiving of your weekly assignments or modules. I think this is maybe where you're getting confused. However, um, if I look at the contents of Module Six, here's what I see. I see it has some missing image links too. So, uh, but I do see that you've got a nice rollover effect on your navigation, and that shows up very well. And I see too that you're using the corporate palette in the rollover effect. So I'm curious to see how that is programmed on your style sheet. When I view the code for this page, and remember this is week six, here's what I see. I see you have a website, a CSS, and I'll take a look at that in a second. Here is the host code, which we need to ignore. Let me zoom in here. Um, and then I see that you are now placing things using the div tag and the span tag. Good going. Now I would expect there to be a folder in your week or module six folder or directory. I would expect there to be a directory called images, and then with this image in it, logo.png. Now, because I don't have access to the contents of that directory, or let's see, index. Oh, and another thing too, James, and I know I've mentioned this before, but word spaces in your file names, and here's one of them, uh, really do cause havoc. And it may be a source of your problems, or one source, but I think really more it's file paths. And that I would expect to, if I go here, I would expect to find a folder called images, and I don't. See, so I think that's the problem. You need a directory or a folder where you will put your images and your logo, the logo.png. So I think that is, again, it's a you'll need a because according to the your source, there is a directory called images, and that contains a logo PNG, and that should be in this particular directory, this module wordspace 206. So there's a lot of good things to like about it. So let me go back and take a look at your CSS. Great. All right. So I think once you get the and is it named website CSS? Okay, so that agrees, and it's at large in the. Okay, so yeah, it's there, and you have the hover effect here, and a little bit of formatting. So you can build on this, but you successfully separated content from style, which is really the purpose of an external style sheet. Good going. You've actually accomplished a lot, James. So I'm just going to go through here. Do you have dummy pages? Yes, you do. And again, I think, let me just look at the code for those. I just want to make sure that they're calling on the same CSS. And there it is, website CSS. Again, I would expect there to be a folder, and there isn't in the this directory, a folder for images. And so I think that's where the missing images is coming from. But you've got everything else. You've also got a footer going on here. And hopefully you've used the same CSS, correct? So, and I see just you can build on this, but you've got the idea. James, here's one of the screenshots of how it's meant to look, on your computer, and it's really beautiful. I can just imagine what that rollover looks like now that the style sheet is working. You've got the logo imported and this very appetizing image. What kind of pie is that? And then one of the other requirements of the week 6 milestone 2 was, do you have annotated wireframes? And I know yours, from the beginning were hand drawn, and that's fine. And I don't want to belabor on these. You've got them. That's what's important. And so I think it's proficient. And you worked really diligently. I know it's been long hours in getting thus far. Again, it's a file path problem, and the missing image directory, I believe, on your week 6 or your module 6 folder. Now, James, I'm always looking at the rubric for any particular project, and for the milestone 2, it's quite extensive. It's I think it's worth 100 points, but you only need to make proficient, and that's the highest option here. So the first one, of course, is design, structure, sitemap. You can follow through. I address each one of them, but I may not make a comment on it. The first one is, do you have an illustrated sitemap? And you do, back from week 3, I believe. And does it have you developed an engaging design? Well, yes. Once I can view it with the images that you've imported, it's very appetizing. I can see it fitting well in a wide variety of platforms. Whether it be a smartphone or a tablet or a desktop, as I'm looking at it now. And it is engaging, very appetizing. You've used the corporate palette in the logo, but also in the navigation. And you have been able to control the positioning. You've been able to center this, also bleed this left and right, which will be really nice, I think, on a smartphone. You have used an external style sheet. Good going. You've separated style from content. There is compliant page formatting. It's just the links. You've now naming conventions. Again, here's where I think you really need to get rid of the word spaces in your file names, and so this needs a little bit of work, attention. I don't want to confuse you. I know you may have a lot invested in those directory names at this point, but it would help moving forward to not use word spaces. And the homepage design is really nice. Let me take a look at some of the other pages. So James, I'm assuming that this is the print version of your menu. That's great. That will work just well, perfectly. And I'm glad that you have it. And that this is, I guess, their print publication or publication design class, correct? So good job on that. It's good that the navigation appears in the same place at the same scale on every page. This is your contact page. Again, I like that you've bled the image off to the left. See if you can add a little cell spacing so that the type is not so tight to the margins here. Be generous with the white space, I think. I like your size relationship. This is displaying, though, as Times Roman. How nice it would be to use Gaudi Old Style, which I believe is the corporate typeface. So James, this is what I like is that the consistent placement of the image bleeding off to the left here. It is sometimes awkward to center type over something that is flush left, and then to have several centered arrangements. You've got one axis here, and then you have another axis here. It seems a bit awkward. I'm not sure how you can fix that, but I think I'd almost prefer to see maybe all of this flush left, ragged right, maybe on this axis. So not too close to the images, but maybe line it up with something. The stem of this T, the beginning of your navigation, creates a vertical that if you have the type, and if you can control it, keep the line length down, either by enlarging the size of type somewhat or just by making shorter lines. In general, if you can, put some breathing space around your type. But kind of elegant, I like it. Well, not kind of elegant, just period, elegant, period. And our nice combination. The sturdiness of the logo, I think, will be well matched by the Gaudi Old Style. James, I wanted to acknowledge your very fine wireframes of week 4, and your annotated wireframes are just fine in this context. Lastly, James, I just wanted to cover your week 5 discussion, and thanks for being brave and giving us a link to it. But also, thank you for embedding images because we can see your intentions and just really how good it is. It's just that missing image file folder, and I won't harp on that, and perhaps your file naming conventions. And short, but I think very valuable advice to both Beth and good job.